everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and I am finally back from France. I am recovering from jet lag. Such a terrible thing. I'm used to being like 9 hours ahead of what I am right now. So, a little tired, but it's all good. So we are now in for the fourth and final part of the Galaxy S4 review. In this segment, I want to talk about S-Health, I want to talk about the camera, I want to talk about the battery life, I want to talk about the antennas, I want to talk about other issues. There's a lot of things to explore in this final segment, so let's go and check it out. Now, starting off with S-Health, I actually think this is a pretty cool application. To set it up, you're going to want to hit Next. Now, one thing that you need to pay attention to is that it does say any information that you obtain from use of S-Health may not be suitable, accurate, complete, or reliable. So I think this is kind of just a guide to help you. This isn't medically accurate, so pay attention to that. There are various privacy things that you need to agree to, then you hit Next. You need to fill out your information, male, female, weight, height. This is going to help with the parameters. It helps figure out how many calories you're actually burning. Then it's going to have you fill out your height. I'm a shorty, so I'm 5 feet tall, 110 pounds. You want to be honest with this application here, because if you're not honest with it, then it's not going to be accurate at all. For example, if you are someone who does little to no activity, you don't want to lie to it and say that you do moderate activity or even heavy activity, because check out little to no activity. It's telling me that I shouldn't be consuming any more than a little bit over 1,500 calories a day. And if I set it to moderate activity, I can eat about 2,000 calories a day. So that's a pretty significant difference. So for me, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to say light activity. It's telling me I should be burning 479 calories a day as an estimate. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. Now, underneath the S-Health menu, you have a plethora of different things that you can configure and different things that help you monitor your weight and your calorie usage. One thing that I really like is Walking Mate. Once you hit start, the accelerometer in this phone will help to track every step that you make, and actually I've been using this. I did reset it for purposes of this review, but I have been using this and it looks really accurate. Then you also have Exercise Mate. So what you do underneath Exercise Mate is that you can hit the enter button here, and it's going to allow you to choose from a list of pre-configured activities. I really don't know where they've got these calorie estimates from, but let's just say that I'm somebody who's going to be going running. I can hit running and it gives you how many calories you burn per 30 minutes. So just say that I do 45 minutes. I'm going to already have burned over 1,000 calories. That's well over my calorie goal for the day. So because it's gone past my goal, I can go ahead and look at my health board. You can see that my goal has indeed been reached. So I think that that's pretty handy. On top of being able to track all of your exercise activities, you can track what you're eating. When you go underneath Add Meal, you do have the ability to search for certain foods. So for lunch category, you can say add food information. You can search food, just say banana. What's nice is that Samsung has included a database that tells you already the amount of calories that you can expect to find in food. For example, you have Dole, Chiquita, Denny's banana, large, giant food bananas. So it makes a distinction between smaller bananas and larger bananas. Let's not get into any more than that. Even with something like cookies, it's giving me name-branded things, and even things I can find at restaurants such as Subway or McDonald's. So this is actually really nice and useful. One of my favorite things in this application is surroundings. You can see this is comfort level. This is something that's only available inside of the regular Galaxy S4. With the Galaxy S4 active, the sensors used for comfort level don't work. You're able to adjust your own comfort range, and also you're able to adjust your own comfort humidity. And then you can see that it tells me if I'm in a good environment or not. It is about 78 degrees in this room that I am in. A little bit over room temperature. So I find this really nice. So I can tell now if it's too hot to leave chocolate in my car. I can tell if I'm just gonna die of heat exhaustion. I don't know how accurate this is on every phone, but it seems that mine's pretty accurate. Although I have seen phones where it isn't as accurate. So I think it's going to just depend on your individual phone, but I think it's quite useful. And of course you have weight that I've already entered. As time goes by, you're able to update your weight. What's really nice is there's also a bunch of different accessories that you can get that work with the Galaxy S4 and the S-Health application. So if you have a blood glucose meter that's compatible, you can actually hook it up to your S4 and transfer the information every time you do a blood reading. You can see if you go underneath blood glucose accessory, it tells you which ones are accessible. So Samsung does take that guesswork out for you. You can also buy accessories like blood pressure. There's also a scale that's compatible with this phone as well. If you want to see how your overall status is going, you can hit Health Board and it's going to take you to a preview of what's going on. If you're proud of it, you can go ahead and hit the share button. You can see you can share it with Facebook, Gmail, Google+, Hangouts. Then lastly, there is a settings tab, and underneath settings is a security code. If you don't want people looking around in your business on your phone, you can set a PIN, so I'm just going to put my date of birth, 1989, 1989, hit OK, and then people shouldn't be able to get into it and see what you weigh if you're really insecure or this or that. So as soon as I exit out of S Health, I don't even have to shut it down. All I have to do is hit the home button. Anytime you go back into it, it's going to prompt you for your PIN. 1989. Now this is something that I don't know if is a bug or what, but anytime I enter the PIN for right now, it's not wanting to go in. I hit 1989, I know I did, it was confirmed. 1989. Okay, Samsung, that's a little bad, you should probably fix that. I looked into this a little bit more about the PIN not working, and yeah, it seems it's something that's been well reported. Damn it, Samsung! The only way to fix it is to go underneath your application settings and to clear all data, and then you have to start all over again. So it truly is locked down. Thanks for that. Gee, what is wrong with you, Samsung? Now moving on to the Galaxy S4 audio and some good things and some bad things. What's great about the Galaxy S4 is that it can be actually a pretty proficient music player when using a decent pair of headphones, not counting the Galaxy S4 earbuds. Measurements have shown that this device has good signal-to-noise ratio, which basically means in the background you're not getting a lot of hiss. Also, there is low distortion, low total harmonic distortion. So in general, audio is supposed to sound pretty clear and pretty good. One issue that this device is having, though, is that you should be using headphones that are not too low of impedance. If you have a favorite pair of low impedance headphones that is lower than 16 ohms, you may have some issues. There's been a lot of testing, especially with the i9-505 or even the AT&T version of the Galaxy S4. They're getting a lot of pops and crackling and terrible noise in the background and distortions if they use headphones that are less than 16 ohms. The sweet spot seems to be a little bit over 33 ohms, and you should have a pretty good experience with that. As time has gone by, I have heard that there have been updates, especially there has been a German firmware update that seems to have gotten rid of the low impedance issue. Now, I haven't heard of anything roll out for the AT&T version yet, but that should be soon to come, hopefully. And if it doesn't exist, there is the ability to take a custom ROM that is based off something like the German version or even later that was released, and it should have the ability to get rid of that low impedance problem as well. But of course, that is going to take a rooted phone with an unlocked bootloader, so it's not for everybody. Now, for all of you audiophiles out there, you might be a little bit disappointed with the Galaxy S4. This right here is the AT&T version of the Galaxy S4. I don't have the i9500 in hand, but between both of these devices, Samsung has added an upsampling algorithm, and not a very good one at that. MP3 audio, CD audio, basically most common audio files out there usually have a sampling rate of 44.1 kilohertz. Android likes to play back 48 kilohertz, so it has to be upsampled. The problem is that when going from 44.1 kilohertz up to 48 kilohertz, the interpolation process is not very nice with the algorithm that Samsung has implemented. So instead of having the waveform reconstructed to look just like it did at 44.1 kilohertz, at 48 kilohertz, you're getting a little bit of artifacts here and there. I don't think this is something that most people will notice except for the audiophiles, but this upsampling algorithm affects both the Qualcomm version and also the i9500. So if you are someone who is infatuated with the Wolfson DAC, this upsampling algorithm kind of makes it a moot point. So thanks, Samsung, for that. Thanks a lot. Now, as for battery life on the Galaxy S4s, I had a chance to actually use both versions of the Galaxy S4, the Exynos version and the Snapdragon version. I have several screenshots that I'm going to show you. I don't have the Exynos version on hand, but when I was in France with my boyfriend, you bet I had a chance to play around with that phone. The general consensus among reviewers is that the battery life on the Exynos version is nowhere close to being as good as the Snapdragon version. I have not been able to understand why they say this. Probably because they're doing one certain task that the Exynos version isn't as efficient at as the Snapdragon version. That would explain it. So they're doing things like running phone calls until the battery dies or running videos until the battery dies. But in general, usage for me, such as playing games or browsing the internet, this or that, heavily all throughout the day, both phones have pretty decent battery life. The screenshots that I'm looking at right now is actually of the Exynos version. You can see it's at 30% charge. It's already been a day and 8 hours. And looking at screen time, it's 2 hours and 30 minutes. What about that is bad? I don't understand why people think that this is considered bad battery life. That's just, it's pretty good. What I was actually able to find when using both of these phones is that the Exynos version sometimes came out on top. Now here is a screenshot from my Snapdragon version. At 1 day and 4 hours, you can see I have a significant amount of things going on here. I'm at 4% charge, and screen time is at about 3 hours. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at some screenshots from the i9500. So at about 1 day and 9 hours, I did use this very heavily. I'm going to go ahead and look at screen time. It's at 3 hours and 30 minutes. The battery is about 6%. Mine that I had shown you was about 4%, but you can see that there's several hours difference here, and the screen time is actually a little bit better as well. So whoever is saying that the Exynos version has terrible battery life just didn't have a chance to actually use both phones side by side. Both of them have pretty decent battery life. They're going to get you easily through the day, even with pretty heavy usage. So it's really going to depend on your usage pattern versus my usage pattern, but honestly, I would say that the Exynos version is just even slightly better than the Snapdragon version. I really do put them on par with each other. As for the various antennas inside of this phone, such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, NFC, I haven't had any issues with any of them. As far as reception on this phone, it's been generally pretty good. I'm getting anywhere from 2 to 3 bars at any given time. Now, of course, the i9500 model is the one that does not have LTE and is not LTE compatible. The Snapdragon version does have LTE bands depending on your area. One thing that's really bothering me about the i337, which is the AT&T model, and the i337M is that they are crippled. So I have unlocked my phone. Yeah, I know, I'm gonna get in so much trouble. I paid for it outright, therefore I have every right to do whatever I want with this hardware. So I unlocked it, and I tried to take it over to T-Mobile and use it with my T-Mobile SIM card, and little did I know that they had actually crippled the AWS band. T-Mobile uses AWS for dual carrier. Dual carrier HSPA Plus uses 2 different cell towers at one time to double your bandwidth. When you were using just HSPA Plus, you were pulling down about 21 megabits per second max, but with dual carrier, you are doubling that data stream, and you get a max of 42 megabits per second. It's like LTE, and if not better than LTE in some circumstances. But no! You can't use that on this one because AWS bands have been crippled. So if you bought the AT&T version or the i337M and wanted to use it on T-Mobile, you can't because the AWS band has been disabled. If you have the 1900 band available for 3G in your area, sure, you can get 3G. Otherwise, these two versions are going to be on edge. Also, I took this phone abroad when I was in France, and I noticed that dual carrier just doesn't work at all. My iPhone and even my Galaxy Note 2 were able to get dual carrier, and you just can't do that with this phone. But there is a hack that you can do. I will put a link in the description, so if you want to enable your AWS bands, you can. It's really a rotten move to disable what this phone originally had. Now lastly, down to the camera, I'm going to be talking about the settings, and also I want to do a little bit of comparisons between the Galaxy S4 Exynos and the Snapdragon. I've already covered that in some depth in another video, but I'm going to pretty much be reiterating that. So to start off with, one of the most awesome features is the dual recording mode. All you have to do is to hit this button that is up here, and it's going to create a little stamp, as you can see here. You can change the frame type that you have here. You can make it into a stamp, oval blur. You can change it into being a Polaroid instant picture. And if you'd like to, you can also switch the view. So now we have the little ducky in the image, and I can go ahead and take a picture of myself like this, or I can start recording. Hello! Also, during recording, I can switch which camera I'd like to look at. You can go ahead and resize the image, move it around. This is all happening in real time as you're recording. And then I can go ahead and get rid of that if I'd like and just continue recording. You don't have to hit the stop button at all. So I find that to be really, really nice. What I also like about the dual recording and dual camera feature is that if you go underneath settings, you can choose the photo size. You can choose it to be 16:9 or you can choose it to be 4/3. So just say if you were happening to be filming at the moment and you wanted to have the full extent of the display, you see that I had the option to choose it to be 16:9, and now the little image isn't in the way right in the center of what I'm recording. So I find this to be really, really nicely implemented. The next thing to pay attention to is your shortcut bar. You see that there's an arrow that's pointing next to this little wheel. Go ahead and click on that, and it's going to bring a bunch of different shortcut settings. Now, if you don't like what's up here, you do have the option of either pushing the menu button and saying Edit Quick Settings, or you can simply just tap down and hold. And anything that you don't like, just say that you don't like the auto night mode, and you want something like, I don't know, video stabilization, you can go ahead and drag that and put that right there, and voila. Also, you should pay attention to what we have around the sides of the screen here. I don't really like how Samsung has this implemented. It's kind of busy. I preferred the ability to simply just hold down the menu button here and choose settings from this way. But some people do like this, so we do have the ability to change to the front-facing camera. You have access to your photo gallery. If you click on this here, you get a bunch of real-time settings. Now you can use the real-time settings in both photos and videos, so that's really nice. Along the top here, of course, we have execution for start video, there's execution for snap a photo, and then you've also got mode. Once you hit mode, you have a bunch of different settings under here, which are really, really nice. And there's a couple different ways you can view this. You can either have them all laid out before you, or you can hit the scroll through mode. When you hit the scroll through mode, you have an easier time seeing what each of the functions do. You can see that it gives you a little bit of a description. So you've got automatic mode, which is just self-explanatory, auto color, auto exposure. So looking at beauty face, this works in real time. What it does is when you click on it, a square box will show up. I actually have it on the front-facing camera, and I did a demo just down here. It recognizes your face, and it makes a box around your face. And then you can see in real time the effect. So if you hit off, of course, there's no effect. When you hit on, there's an interesting smoothing effect. So if you have any type of acne or blemishes on your face, it tends to smooth that out. So here is me normally, and then I did it with beauty face. I could see that it really just smoothed out my skin. It doesn't look all so natural, but it does work. Next we have best photo, and all that does is take several pictures. It's a series of pictures, and it allows you to choose the best one. And then there's best face, which again allows you just to take a series of photos. In this case, it takes 5 photos, and it allows you to choose the best faces from the photos. So you can superimpose different faces that you like. If one person's smiling and another person isn't, you can replace the person that isn't smiling with one where they were. Sound and shot, I think this is probably one of the most pathetic settings. It seems to only work on the phone itself. So just say you were to, I guess what was advertised was taking a picture of a person blowing out their birthday candles, and then you were able to hear them all singing happy birthday in the background. Well, the thing is, if you don't view that on a Galaxy phone, the singing just goes away. It just ends up being a picture. So I found that to be a little bit lame. I found drama to be pretty cool, and it works. You just have to make sure that whatever you are taking a picture of is enough distance away so that it can all fit into the frame. I actually have an example. So the further away, the better the effect is. I was standing not too far away, but kind of just mid-range from this biker, and you can see that he's coming into the frame, and it looks very, very seamless. So yeah, this works really well. Just make sure that you are at far enough of a distance to fully get them into the frame so that there's several different areas in the frame that they will arrive. The more areas that they arrive in the frame, the more of a transitional effect you will see. Next, you have animated photo, which lets you create an animated GIF file. That's really nice because it really is a real GIF file. So just say that it's the 4th of July and you're watching fireworks. Well, everything else can be frozen in the frame except for the fireworks that are going upward, and it creates an animated picture. You've got your HDR settings accessible from here. You've also got eraser for people who photobomb. And this also works really well. The one thing that annoys me about this mode is it doesn't allow you to keep the original photo and the edited one. I did a couple of these and then realized I don't really have much to show you because, well, they take away the initial one and only leave you with the one that takes out whoever photobombed or whatever photobombed. For lack of a better example, here's me just moving my arm across the frame. Now, just say I don't want my arm in there, I can go ahead and select it. I can then say hide moving objects, and there you go, boom. So essentially it just analyzes several different captures, and it sees when there isn't someone in that particular capture, and it kind of just stitches it all together. But yeah, you can see it works really well. Next, you've got your panorama mode. Everyone knows what this is. It's nothing too spectacular. You just need to move the camera in one direction and it's going to take a nice scenery. This is one that I had done when I was in France. I was just testing to see how it would handle different exposures, and it does really well stitching everything together. I don't see too much of an exposure change. Everything looks pretty on par. Next you have a sports mode for just fast moving objects, and you've also got a night mode, which allows you, like it says, take brighter, clearer pictures in low light without your flash. And then again back to your auto. So there's a lot of really nice settings in here. I don't know which ones I would particularly use, but I think at a party or something where I'm really interested in the novelty abilities of this phone, I think it's fun. So now let's check out some images and videos, shall we? To start off with, I want to talk about the differences between the Snapdragon and the Exynos cameras. One thing that has never been confirmed is whether the differences are because there's two different camera sensors or if it's just different processing. Either one of these theories are plausible. But if the speculation that there's different sensors is true, what I am hearing is that the Exynos version has a newer version of the Sony camera in it, which would be called the IMX135 or Exymer RS, while the Snapdragon version would have the Sony IMX91PQ, which would be the older Exymer R. Either way, what I will show you are some of my findings. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of upgrades over time for the Galaxy S4, both versions, and you are welcome to tell me if you see any differences or if you suddenly start seeing that they're exactly the same. I'd be very curious to see. In terms of color accuracy, it looks like the Exynos took a slight edge. Looking at the Snapdragon, it is just a little bit oversaturated, where the Exynos seemed to be very true to what I was looking at. Now looking at HDR processing, here we have our reference photo. Now starting off with the Snapdragon, it seems that surprisingly, even though the Exynos had one just before, the Snapdragon version did better with HDR. It seemed to have better dynamic range between highlights and shadows, and the colors were a lot better as well. When looking at the result from the Exynos version, HDR looks washed out and the processing was just not as good. Though keep in mind, without HDR, the dynamic range is actually a lot better on the Exynos version. Next, we look at these cameras' abilities to capture detail. Thus far, it has been widely found by many that the Exynos version, which is on the left, has the ability to capture a lot more detail. Now, this is where I don't know if it's a difference in the sensor or if it just has to do with processing and the Exynos is just much better. But clearly, you can see that the Exynos version on the left does have a lot more detail. And again, you can see that the Snapdragon version tends to oversaturate a little bit and the colors just aren't as nice. Another obvious thing between these two phones is that the Snapdragon version has quite noisy images, where you can see on the left-hand side the Exynos is nice and smooth, you don't see all that grain in the sky. Even after changing my Galaxy S4 AT&T over to an i9 ROM, there still seem to be grain in the images. Now, when checking out video, specifically in the water test, I could see that the Snapdragon version, so that's on the right-hand side, the Qualcomm codec is much better at producing video that has a lot less artifacts in it. If you look at the left-hand side, you can see that definitely the Exynos version is not as clean as the Snapdragon version on the right, but still both are very good. The video in the Galaxy S4 may not be the sharpest, but it is completely full of detail. The left-hand side is the Galaxy S4, while the right-hand side is the HTC One. During video, I have discovered that I don't like image stabilization on either device, the Exynos or the Snapdragon. On the left-hand side, you can see it looks really jello-y, wobbly. You have the HTC One that actually has real optical image stabilization versus the digital image stabilization on the S4. During my low-light video testing, I noticed that the Exymer backlit sensors do pretty well. With very little lighting, I was still able to see a good amount of detail, and the result was not obnoxiously noisy. So overall, despite the variations between the Exynos and Snapdragon versions of the camera, they're both very excellent in terms of mobile devices. My goodness, I think you'll be happy with either one. Now I get to run around like an idiot. Woo-doo-doo. The things I do for my reviews. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Please check out my brand new website. It's called angeloftech.com. You can get to it from the links in the description. I have a forum there that you can go and talk and ask questions in. I'm also currently doing a giveaway. In a couple of days, I'm going to be announcing what the full giveaway is, but recently I released a teaser video, so you can also check that one out. I will also put a link in the description for that as well. Overall, I think that this is a really nice little phone. It'd be awesome if you could check out the other 3 parts. If you check out the description, I do have links to parts 1, 2, and 3. And whether it be the Exynos version or the Snapdragon version, hopefully I've helped you decide if this is the phone for you. So have a good night, everybody. I'm gonna go and get some sleep now.